Have you ever wondered why African leaders who really believe in their countries always come up missing? Have you? It's a pattern of interference that has a long history, from the colonial era to the Cold War, and even today. The strategy is simple. Brand any independent Pan-African leader as a communist or a foreign agent to justify intervention and weaken support for African unity. Hello and welcome. In this two-part series, we examine how the world has viewed Africa's revolutionary leaders, often painted them as foreign-backed radicals. We will uncover the real history behind these narratives. But first, let's understand the problem. The mid-20th century was Africa's sunrise. From Accra to Kinshasa, from Dar es Salaam to Ouagadougou, the chains of colonial rule were breaking. Ghana in 1957, Congo in 1960, Tanzania in 1961, and Burkina Faso in 1960. It was an era of joy and resolve. Leaders promising not just political independence, but the transformation of Africa into a united, self-reliant continent. But this dawn rose under a long, cold shadow. The world was locked in the Cold War, a global struggle for influence between the United States and the Soviet Union. Every newly independent nation was treated as a square on a geopolitical chessboard. To Washington, any leader who refused to pledge loyalty to the West was suspicious. The tool they used to discredit these leaders was simple: a label. In the 1960s, it was communist, later Soviet stooge, and today it is Russian propagandist. The logic was as crude as it was effective. Branding African leaders as foreign agents not only turned public opinion against them, it created moral cover for coups, assassinations, and economic sabotage. The trials of Africa's titans. Kwame Nkrumah. He was the first sub-Saharan African head of state, leading Ghana to independence in 1957 and championing Pan-African unity. He believed that without a united front, Africa would always be vulnerable to foreign domination. But his socialist-leaning policies and outreach to both East and West alarmed Washington. Declassified CIA documents later confirmed that the United States actively supported the 1966 coup that removed him while he was abroad. In the American press, he was painted as a corrupt dictator and under Soviet influence. In reality, Nkrumah's greatest crime was insisting that Africa control its own destiny. Patrice Lumumba, Congo's first prime minister, took office in 1960, determined to ensure that the country's vast mineral wealth, uranium, copper, cobalt, served the Congolese people. But Western powers had other plans. Belgium, the former colonial ruler, and the United States saw Congo's resources as strategic assets, especially during the nuclear arms race. Within months, Lumumba was overthrown, captured, and executed in January 1961. Officially, he was accused of communist sympathies. In truth, his insistence on economic sovereignty sealed his fate. Thomas Sankara became president of Burkina Faso in 1983 and immediately set about transforming the country. He sold off the government's luxury cars, vaccinated millions, championed women's rights, and rejected dependency on foreign aid. His anti-imperialist stance, particularly his resistance to the International Monetary Fund and French influence, made him a target. In 1987, he was assassinated in a coup, widely believed to have had French backing. Western narratives painted him as a Marxist revolutionary. His actual vision was African socialism rooted in independence and dignity. The same fate, assassination, coup, sabotage, befell others who resisted Western control. Amilcar Cabral of Guinea-Bissau was assassinated before independence was achieved. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania faced relentless economic pressure for his Ujamaa socialism. In each case, the foreign puppet label justified their political isolation or removal. The modern mirror. The Cold War is now over, but the tactic remains alive. The label has simply evolved. In 2024, African Stream, a Pan-African digital media platform created by Africans, was banned in the United States. The official accusation being a covert Russian propaganda outlet. Its real offense? Criticizing US foreign policies in Africa, exposing neo-colonial economic deals, and covering African resistance movements from an African perspective. Across the Sahel, a similar pattern is playing out. Leaders like Assimi Goïta in Mali and Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso have expelled French troops and rejected Western military control. Almost immediately, they have been branded as Kremlin proxies in Western media. The consequences are swift: sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and economic strangulation. The rhetoric is familiar. In the 1960s, leaders were labeled communist to justify their removal. Today, they are labeled Russian-backed to achieve the same end. The goal has not changed: to keep Africa politically fragmented, economically dependent, and open for resource extraction. Why the label matters. When the West says Russian influence in Africa, it often does not mean that Moscow controls African leaders. It means those leaders are no longer under Western control. The accusation is less about actual evidence and more about narrative dominance. These labeling strategies serve two purposes. It delegitimizes African resistance movements in the eyes of the global public, and it creates a pretext for punitive measures, from economic sanctions to covert operations that weaken independent leadership. The cost of resistance. From Nkrumah to Lumumba, from Sankara to African Stream, the cost of defying Western dominance has been high. Leaders have been assassinated, governments toppled, economies sabotaged, and media voices silenced, all under the guise of protecting Africa from foreign influence. But the foreign influence, and the one that has kept Africa from fulfilling its potential, has often come from the very powers making the accusations. A new generation's challenge. History shows that Africa's fight for sovereignty has never been solely about politics. It is about culture, economy, and even personal discipline. The resilience shown by past leaders is the same resilience needed today, not just in boardrooms or parliaments, but in communities and individuals. As younger generations step into the arena, in politics, in media, in activism, we face the same narratives our predecessors did. But we also inherit the same determination. The challenge is not only to resist the label, but to control the microphone and tell Africa's story on Africa's terms. So why are we telling this story? Because understanding our history gives us purpose to our struggle. From the hardships of these leaders, we draw strength. In part 2, we will transform this resilience into action. A full body workout inspired by the same discipline and spirit that fueled Africa's freedom fighters. Just as those leaders refused to back down, we will push our bodies to build a warrior physique, lean, strong, and disciplined.
Round 2. So we started with the narrow push-ups, so we're gonna do a wide push-ups now.
If you found this eye-opening, please like and subscribe for part 2, where we channel this legacy into a workout that burns fat with purpose and builds muscle with pride. Share your thoughts below and let us know which leader's story moved you. Stay tuned. This has been Afro-Forge, where we train like our ancestors are watching.